Imagine two animals standing near the same injured companion. One moves closer, it touches the body, calls, tries to help, and stays long after there is any obvious reason to stay. The other watches for a moment, turns away, and keeps moving. Same species, same situation, same suffering in front of them, but completely different response. And that raises a question people usually do not want to ask about animals. Do some of them simply feel less? Can an animal see another animal in pain and feel almost nothing at all? In humans, we have a word for the darkest version of that idea: psychopathy. A person who may seem unusually fearless, manipulative, callous, or untouched by another person's suffering. So are there psychopaths in the animal kingdom? Not animals that hunt. Not animals that kill to eat. Animals that may feel almost nothing when another mind is suffering. The answer is not simple, because before we can ask whether animals are psychopaths, we need to separate something humans constantly mix together. Violence is not the same thing as cruelty. A wolf bringing down an elk may look horrifying. A lion eating prey before it is fully dead may look unbearable. A cat repeatedly catching and releasing a mouse may look like torture. But nature does not automatically contain the same moral categories that exist in the human mind. A predator may be hungry. It may be practicing a hunting sequence. It may be reacting to movement. It may be following instincts shaped over millions of years, long before guilt, morality, or empathy meant anything. The action can look cruel to us. But cruelty is not just what happens. Cruelty is also what the individual understands and feels while it is happening. And that is the problem. Scientists can watch what animals do. They can measure stress hormones, record calls, study social behavior, and compare thousands of interactions. But they cannot enter an animal's mind and ask one simple question: did you care? Still, there are clues. One of the clearest clues comes from animals that help each other. In laboratory studies, rats have been observed opening a small door to release another rat trapped inside. They do this even when there is no obvious food reward waiting for them. In some experiments, the free rat appears disturbed by the trapped rat's distress, and once it learns how to open the door, it begins doing it faster. That does not mean a rat is thinking like a human hero. It may not understand suffering in the way you do, but something about another rat's distress changes its behavior. It matters to the rat. Elephants can show something similar. When one elephant is injured, distressed, or dying, others may stay near it. They may touch it with their trunks, guard it, try to lift it, or remain close long after danger has passed. Primates can react strongly when close companions are harmed. Chimpanzees have been observed consoling distressed individuals after conflict. Some animals change their behavior depending on whether the suffering individual is familiar to them, related to them, or part of their group. So empathy-like behavior clearly exists in parts of the animal kingdom. But then comes the darker question. If some animals are highly responsive to another individual's pain, can some be unusually unresponsive? The answer is probably yes. Not necessarily psychopaths, not diagnosed monsters, not animals plotting cruelty in the dark, but individuals with different emotional settings. Because animals have personalities. Some fish are consistently bold, others are consistently cautious. Some are more aggressive, some explore new spaces immediately, some stay back. Some birds take bigger risks, some primates become more socially connected, others remain distant. These patterns can remain stable over time. An animal is not just its species. A wolf is not simply a wolf. A chimpanzee is not simply a chimpanzee. A dolphin is not simply a dolphin. Every group contains individuals, and some individuals may be bolder, colder, more impulsive, more aggressive, or less responsive to distress than others. That does not make them evil, but it does mean nature may contain something closer to personality than most people want to admit. Take chimpanzees. Chimpanzees can be affectionate, playful, protective, and deeply social. They groom each other, form alliances, care for offspring, and comfort companions after fights. But they can also be violently strategic. Groups of chimpanzees sometimes patrol the edges of their territory. When they encounter an isolated member of a rival group, they may attack together. The violence can be coordinated. It can be prolonged. And from a human perspective, it can feel disturbingly familiar. But does that make them psychopaths? Not necessarily. Territory, food access, status, and reproduction can all be affected by those conflicts. The violence may be brutal, but it can still have an evolutionary purpose. And that distinction matters. An animal can do something terrible without doing it for a terrible reason. Now look at dolphins. Dolphins are often treated like the friendly geniuses of the ocean. They recognize themselves in mirrors. They build alliances. they cooperate, they use complex communication. They can even help injured members of their group reach the surface. But dolphins have also been observed attacking porpoises and smaller dolphins. In some cases, the victims are not eaten. The behavior can appear violent without an obvious feeding reward. Scientists have proposed different explanations: competition, social tension, redirected aggression, mistaken identity, infanticide-related behavior, or group dynamics we still do not fully understand. But here is what makes it uncomfortable. Sometimes intelligence does not make behavior kinder. Sometimes intelligence gives an animal more ways to compete, dominate, manipulate, and harm. The more complicated an animal's social world becomes, the more complicated its conflicts can become too. And that brings us back to empathy. Empathy is not an on and off switch. Even in humans, people do not feel equal concern for everyone. We care more about family than strangers, more about our group than a rival group, more about people we understand than people we do not. Animals may work the same way. A rat may help a familiar rat, but not react the same way to an unfamiliar one. A chimpanzee may comfort an ally but attack a rival. An elephant may remain beside a herd member but ignore an outsider. That does not mean empathy is fake. It means empathy may have boundaries. And once empathy has boundaries, another possibility appears. Maybe what we call coldness is not always the absence of feeling. Maybe sometimes it is feeling directed somewhere else. Toward survival, toward offspring, toward territory, toward the group, toward the self. That is why labeling an animal a psychopath is so dangerous. It makes the mystery sound solved when it is not. A dolphin attacking a porpoise may look sadistic. A cat playing with a mouse may look cruel. A chimpanzee coalition attacking a rival may look like warfare. But behavior alone cannot tell us whether the animal enjoyed suffering, ignored suffering, misunderstood suffering, or simply followed a survival pattern with no human emotion behind it. Two animals can perform the same action for completely different reasons. One might feel fear, one might feel excitement, one might feel nothing. From the outside, they can look identical, and that may be the hardest truth in all animal behavior. We are always watching the surface, the bite, the chase, the attack, the animal that helps, the animal that leaves. But underneath that surface is a mind we cannot fully enter. Maybe some animals are naturally more fearless than others. Maybe some are less sensitive to distress. Maybe some are more aggressive, more impulsive, or less socially connected. Science has good reasons to think those differences exist. But psychopathy is more than aggression. It is more than violence. It is more than doing something that shocks us. It is about the relationship between one mind and another mind's pain. And until an animal can tell us what it feels when another animal suffers, we have to be careful. Not because animals are simple, but because they may be far more complicated than we are ready to admit. The next time you see an animal do something that feels cruel, pause before deciding what it means. It may be instinct, it may be hunger, it may be fear, it may be competition, it may be a personality trait, or it may be something we do not have a name for yet. Because the real mystery is not whether animals can be like us. The real mystery is how often we recognize ourselves in them, and how quickly we look away when we do. If this changed how you see animals, subscribe for more stories about what they may feel, understand, hide, and reveal when nobody is watching. Because the animal world is not only wild, sometimes it is uncomfortably familiar.